If I have two particular fetishes, they would be, firstly, swanning around Europe, enjoying as much sunshine and nice lifestyle as I can, and the second one will be a little bit weirder. But the two together would absolutely bring me here, to a town on the Bodensee, on the border between southern Germany and Switzerland, the Schweiz, called Friedrichshafen. Because this is the birthplace of the Zeppelin. And I have a strange thing about airships. You might as well, because I've been finding more people who've been having a strange thing for airships as I've got older. They keep turning up in popular folklore and science fiction. So I just had to build one of my vacays with the lovely First Lady of Momo around coming here to the Zeppelin Museum, which it turns out is a beautiful modernist piece of architecture in itself. Now, I can't take you in there for now because, you know, I don't have their permission to film in there, but it was fascinating, a really interesting look at the whole structure and history of the airship, Baron von Zeppelin, and all the different individual people here in Friedrichshafen especially that sort of helped make it happen. A troubled idea that had lots of crashes, cost a few lives, and in the end failed. Or did it? This is a beautiful testimony to tenacity and bold vision. And what did I get out of it? Apart from actually getting to go on a full-sized replica of a section of the Hindenburg. They built it in there. You can walk up underneath, you walk into the main area downstairs, and they've got sort of a part of the fuselage underneath, and then steps down as they would have been, and walk up in a full mock-up of the lounges and some of the quarters. It's fascinating to see for real after all these years of reading and dreaming about it. Big old interesting museum, but what I got out of it was this. Few things. Firstly, Baron von Zeppelin himself came to notoriety through this absurd project late in life. He was forcibly retired from the army when he was 51. Didn't want to leave, had to, forgotten why, and had this vision in his head for a large Luftschiff, not just a dirigible, not just something that could carry people on day trips over Paris like legends such as Santos Dumont, who I secretly half want to be, had been doing for a while. His vision was for a large, heavy lifting platform, and everybody said he was kind of bonkers. And honestly, the reason I wanted to come to Friedrichshafen was to look over this lake and just picture these giant floating sausages at the turn of the last century, and all the locals going, "What?" And he persisted. After crashes and failures, he persisted in the idea that this could work. He was in his 70s by the time, in 1908, he signed the sort of declaration of the beginning of, as he saw it, the German love affair with the skies through airships. Success, in that sense, came very late to him in his particular dream. Success came late, but he was tenacious, and despite all the naysayers, he thought big. Really big. Because the Hindenburg, when you see it as a sort of comparison model in there against other things such as the QE2 and Concorde and a modern-day A380, which you see those things up close, they're enormous. Well, they're dwarfed by the Hindenburg. I'll insert some stats under this, because obviously I haven't got any to hand now, as to kind of at all the models and and it was beautiful. I wanted to nick some. Got some posters, obviously. Success came late because of his tenacity and his desire to think big. Now, there's one character who's suspiciously missing from this, who I think is, in a way, the real hero of it, and he's weirdly not there. I have to imagine there's an entire wing of this that I just missed, dedicated to one chap, Hugo Echner, arguably the greatest airship captain of all time, perhaps one of the greatest sons of here in Friedrichshafen. I think he was born here because he was a young reporter sent up to the Baron to find out from the Friedrichshafen Times what this eccentric old man was doing up in the hills. And he met the Baron and, long story short, just fell in love with the whole idea of lighter than air travel and became its champion. It's strangely he's not mentioned in there that I could see very much, because he, as a reporter, just got behind the idea of PR. He was behind an awful lot of the big deliveries to when they delivered the Los Angeles to America and other things, and did these sort of PR stunts to get lighter than air travel through airships on the international radar. Now, you could say it worked rather too well, because when the National Socialists came in the 30s, they apportioned the airshops for their use, and of course the Hindenburg in the end was finished because of Nazi money, because Hitler wanted it as an enormous symbol of their power, and that's in the end all they were. But the other thing I find interesting about the airship sort of phenomenon is that every time they were tried to be used for military purposes, they sort of didn't really work very well. They had a symbolism that scared people, the baby killers to Londoners in the First World War, the first time the UK was bombed on its home shores from the sky. Or just the epic scale of the Hindenburg floating around with the terrifying swastikas on the fins. They had a symbolism and a presence, but actually practically what they were good for was much more human things, not conflict. Scientific observation, pleasure cruises, and supply lines. And today, something also that's missing from in here is a look at how moderners, people like you and me, not people like you and me, people in the military and elsewhere, civil organisations, are trying to reinvent the airship, because it won't stay out of our collective consciousness, will it? So projects like the Airlander, very interestingly in Britain, trying to create a large platform heavy lifting thing, or Boeing have been mucking around with something with big sucky feet, I don't know what it's called, won't quite go away. And I wonder whether this is the real lesson to take away from my time here at the Friedrich von Zeppelin Museum. Be tenacious, think big, and don't be scared to. And when somebody says you are the stupidest German in Bavaria, don't worry, because it might turn out that A, that person was wrong and you become famous or successful in your own way. B, it may turn out that that person was Kaiser Wilhelm, who had one or two screws loosed himself and caused rather more problems as a result. Hold your vision, think big, don't be afraid of daft, and maybe this last lesson of all. This seems like an idea out of time. It's had its time, it's the definition of the modernist dream, big and opulent and defying physics, the optimism of modernism between the wars. And of course it was actually all caught up in the wars, and at the end of it they decommissioned. The beautiful Graf Zeppelin, the most successful of all the Zeppelins, hundreds of flights totally safe, was scrapped in 1940, all as a result of the Hindenburg disaster. But was it a failed oddity of history, anachronistic today, or is it something that was actually simply way ahead of its time? And that there's something so dreamlike and human about these huge majestic fish, the symbolism of them, and the fact that they're just so made for humanitarian style issues, from lifestyle to helping people to seeing things from a new perspective, abjectly not meant for military purposes, that even in my lifetime the large airships may come back. Maybe you're a mad old person in a castle who's way, way ahead of his time. That's what I got out of this. Oh, and also the fact that, never stop playing. Zeppelins, baby!